I went to Dreamville Fest in North Carolina beginning of April, and they had the Illegal, and I was like, oh, I've had that with Dan, and so I was like, let me get that with soda, because before I just sipped it or whatever, and with soda, it blew my mind. I'm like, this is a drink I can have recreationally, as opposed to doing shots and trying to go to the next level.
I went to a gathering in Mexico, and their introduction was mezcal. It was like, hey, welcome to Mexico, welcome to lunch, welcome to corporate lunch. Here's mezcal. It was like, whoo, this is a lot for an afternoon lunch.
I discovered a new drink when I was in Portugal last week. I kind of feel like the kid who just studied abroad and came back and keeps talking about their time in Europe.
Sun-kissed?
But
Portugal,
this
yes,
drink changed my life. It is a port tonic, port wine and tonic water. It was unbelievably good. I did not have any First of all, I'm not even like a huge wine guy, but I go to Portugal and now all of a sudden I'm like having a glass of wine every night before I go to bed. It used to be a tea person, now I'm a wine guy.
You're also of the age of being imprinted by a cultural land you've never seen before, and all of a sudden you come back altered because Portugal taught you things to mix club soda with your wine.
Obrigado.
Tonic and obrigada, exactly. I mean, Portuguese is a confusing language. I learned some Portuguese words that I will never use again. But the port tonic, Dan, I'm telling you, when I am back in the studio, I'm going to bring a bottle of port and some tonic water, and I'm going to enlighten all of you.
All right, let's vow right now to do that show one Tuesday morning, where all of us are just drinking Port Tonic Tuesday, where we're to go get a wine sponsor and figure out how we can do this together. All of us, yeah. Well, Tuesday. Okay, you know what? Thursday. Let's make it Port Tonic Thursday, just to keep things safe. Amin, I wanted to talk to you about something because I see it's making me smile and laugh because if the people, well, I assume most of the people listening to this know at least some of the history, but so we didn't get popular because we were talking race relations at ESPN, and then George Floyd happens, and I regret not pushing Stephen A. on this last week because he was saying, and sometimes you have to rise up against the company, and I didn't know where the line was between, he's saying, well, George Floyd, obviously, the rules don't have to be consistent, and I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, but how about immigration? Like, where do I have to put the line where everybody can just say, okay, you know what, this is wrong? But I'm seeing on television a baseball debate that is being talked about as racism, and nobody is finding the funny in it. It is a very serious topic. It feels like meatheads talking about race. Is Josh Donaldson meathead personified in the baseball locker room? Looking at Tim Anderson, who says he's a modern day Jackie Robinson because Tim Anderson, a great White Sox player, has a little bit of swag, thinks baseball is boring, and is just great at baseball. And also in the modern times is being a person who, it's still hard to be black in baseball. Still. And so you call him Jackie, and the conversation around it seems really, really serious. Hugely serious. But Jackie in a locker room as an insult when you are not following any of the rules, where the locker room is immune to whatever it is that's happening in society. Like, they have to play it straight, but competitive people doing dumb shit for a living who are still meathead and children, the fact, that people are discussing this seriously as a race issue, when Buffalo happens, that this is the way we tackle the race issue in sports, like this one's Jackie. He called him Jackie, Amin.
Dude, look, let me tell you, first of all, Tim Anderson, I own one jersey out of any major professional sports or amateur sports, whatever. One jersey. It is a White Sox Tim Anderson jersey.
Such a badass.
Because I just like
solid bona fides by you.
Bona fides. Sorry, Chris.
No problem. Trying to spread the gospel.
You really took it from him. He wanted to get in there.
At the corner of my eye.
You hit him in the chest. You hit him. You just moved him off the ball. You give him the elbow that sent PJ Tucker 40 feet. Is what you just gave Whittingham there, and then you apologized to him.
Yeah. Because at the last minute, I saw him move towards the board to hit his mic button, and I was like, damn. I'm this far already.
Go for it. I'm just trying to spread the good word of saying bona fides.
It is not a good word. It's annoying, and people would like you to stop and would like everyone to stop. Don't spread that. Stop it in its tracks.
So I love everything he represents, right? And I don't just mean as a black guy playing baseball. I mean, like, make baseball fun, make it interesting, have personality. I'm all for all these things, right? But when I heard the story of Josh Donaldson calling him Jackie, before I even knew the context that Tim Anderson had himself said he wants to be the Jackie Robinson of making baseball fun or whatever, I laughed because it took me back to a time when you're on the basketball court and people show up on the court and you don't know what their names are. So you just pick a name that is like in any other context is super racist, but in the context of a basketball court, it's hilarious. It's funny. I laughed, man. I laughed because I did like, hey, Jackie, you'll get him next time. Like, that's just funny, man.
Yeah, but that's not how it's being covered.
No, I think people are very serious about this, and Tony La Russa says it's absolutely racist. And when Tony La Russa weighs in,
well, let's play the sound here. That's right. La Russa was La Russa was in the middle of a scrum, Stugotz, and I really wanted to see it escalate. I wanted it to keep going higher as La Russa got in the face of that meathead Josh Donaldson. Are you crazy, La Russa? He's going to chew your face off like something in Jurassic Park. You're 77, man.
I feel like in these baseball fights, like once the two parties have decided we're going to go at it, like each person should get one shot. You know what I mean? And then that'll be the end of these little scrums. Like if La Russa goes chest to chest against a current Major League Baseball player, okay, Tony, that's fine. But each of you gets one good punch, and the other one can't do anything. And then that'll be the end of these little fights where no one actually wants to fight.
Question, do you think guys who are on opposite teams but are friends in real life, do they do the thing from A Million Ways to Die in the West where they just go to the corner and like pretend to fight like, oh, I'm fighting.
Chris, let's play some of the sound here of the participants. And it is so funny to watch this become, okay, this is the way we're going to discuss race. The Josh Donaldson comments. What do we have sound from Josh Donaldson on this? Let's hear what he had to say.
All right, so first inning, I called him Jackie. So let me give you a little context of that. 2019, he came out with an interview, said that he's a new Jackie Robinson of baseball. He's going to bring back fun for the game, right? And 2019, when I played for Atlanta, we actually joked about that on the game. I don't know what's changed from, and I've said it to him in years past, not in any manner than just joking around for the fact that he called himself Jackie Robinson, So, if something has changed from that, like my meaning of that is not any term trying to be racist by any fact of the matter. It was just off of an interview that what he called himself.
Amazing.
It's just, it's unbelievable. Like, okay.
So La Russa pour some gas to lead on that fire, though.
First of all, look, it must be so confusing to Josh Donaldson that he's like, wait a minute, I got to go defend this dumbass shit I've just been saying to him for 2 years because now it's a racial controversy because this time he got insulted. And let me explain the context of this joke and throw in a few fact of the matters because I'm totally ill-equipped to have this conversation with you people. Like, why are you putting me in this position? I've just been bleeping around with a guy I've been calling Jackie. But in the White Sox clubhouse, what was coming out of there is like, man, you don't have those inside jokes with people you aren't friends with. Like, Jackie is one thing, but I think Amin would be here to tell you, in sports, if you're running into each other, these meatheads kind of, if they might not know anything else about each other, it's quite possible that Josh Donaldson hit him with this and didn't think it was offensive.
Dude, I used to go play pickup ball when I went with Georgia Tech at the SRC, right? And there was this grad student who was of some Eastern European descent, don't know what, but he would come in and he would get buckets. This dude was really good. And everybody called him Vladi. We had no idea what his name was. I guarantee it wasn't Vladi, but like, he's Eastern European and he plays basketball. You're Vladi. That just happens, man. Every white guy who shows up to the basketball court has either been called Mark Price, John Stockton, or like Manu Ginobili or something like that. It just happens, man. Like, it's not racist. It's just kind of like, almost like a term of endearment.
Well, no, I'd say this is what I would say. I would say it's probably racist, but it's okay in some instances on the language of the street to not be dictated or to not be dictated by politeness, by the politeness that makes us indignant on television. Probably is. It's the thing that Charles Barkley says. The locker room is so racist and homophobic and misogynistic, and I miss it. It's because in there, you're allowed to. What did you and Zach Harper not do something on the funniest things that you have heard? Spit on the playground in the name of silly men being dumb with humor.
Yeah. So I can't remember what Zach said. Someone called him, but it's just like that's just part of it. And the idea, the reason why Charles says that line, Dan, is because for 99% of the interactions, they don't come from a place of racism, homophobia, or misogyny, right? It's just guys being guys saying dumb stuff. Now, I know people go say, "Oh, it's locker room talk." Like, no. There's a difference. There's a difference between people saying stuff in good-natured ribbing and people who actually mean the stuff. If you actually mean the stuff, obviously that's a different story and a different conversation, and that's the stuff that we need to stamp out or whatever. But it's like, yeah, like sometimes people speak inappropriately to one another. Just because it's inappropriate doesn't mean it has the roots in the worst of humanity.
How has Charles Barkley been able to survive this across whatever it is, 40 years? When he says, Charles, there was video of him this weekend. They were hectoring him as they always do. It's the same shit. No championships. It's been landing on his back every time they do a public outing. And he just turns around at some point and said, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to come to your house and fuck your mama. And
they loved it.
They loved it.
They
loved just the
it.
Acknowledgement. They were like him with the way you were with Magic. Let me fall over on my back and rub my belly. You're a famous person. You acknowledged me.
Well, it's not just famous, right? Like, it's not fame because some famous people are famous. Like Derek Jeter is famously like polite in public, right? Like, he's not affable, but he's not like, get away from you gross people, right? Or maybe with Billy, I don't know.
Barkley was clearly joking too, right? That helps.
But I'm saying,
it's very obvious in that video.
That's my point. Like, people like him.
If he was serious.
I think Donaldson thought he was joking.
I guess this is what I would say to that, Chris, is that if Barkley weren't famous, people would still love him. They wouldn't know who he was. They'd be like, oh, I like that Charles dude. He's funny. He always says some funny things. Like, hey, is he a little inappropriate? Yeah, but like, he's all right. That's how people would react because he is super duper charismatic. And when he says these things, like all Texas has is big women, and like
he gets away with it more than anybody. I just can't believe how he's been able to evolve that way.
Well, it's not even evolve. It's just because he's been this way the entire time, right?
Yeah, but usually that doesn't buy you anything. And you're a sentence away from people forgetting your resume, man.
Sure, but Dan, the other part of it is, in a weird way, we all feel like we know Charles, and so it's like, but he doesn't mean it like that. It's embedded in everything he says, as you know.
But you're applying to all of this stuff. Man, God, that would be such a more polite conversation if you were able to accurately at every turn be able to know these human beings well enough to parse the nuance and say, that's not the intent. Josh Donaldson is just bleeping around, but nobody knows Josh Donaldson.
That's the problem.
And then you put this in front of him, and Josh Donaldson might as well be answering this on the third base bag, looking around like, what is this controversy? I don't know what this is.
Oh, let's be real. Like, most people, myself included, heard about this story via a headline. They read the first paragraph. They heard the first 15 seconds of SportsCenter's coverage of it. You don't really dig into how and why. Like, Josh Donaldson probably just shouldn't make that joke, but like you said, I mean, there is a context in which some people use that joke, in which case he's used this joke several times before. Yeah. So like, it's the added context that's needed. But when you just get a headline, Major League Baseball player calls opponent Jackie,
but
like that's why everyone freaks out.
There is no other side. Once this conversation, the reason I started with the ESPN stuff is because I actually wanted to have these race conversations in a meaningful way. You're putting people now on television that unless they have the space to discuss the playground and where some of this stuff is different, you can put the nuance. You're allowed to find it funny. But You have to discuss this a certain way on television and puts everyone off. And what I'm telling you is that is a totally empty racial conversation when you have a bunch of people just flocking to, oh, Josh Donaldson can't do that. That's so insulting. And then the White Sox contribute to it because you can't say anything against the guys who are also getting indignant on behalf of Tim Anderson. But I'm telling you that race conversations in a baseball clubhouse, of all places, are as remedial as any you will find anywhere in the Americas.
But it's the same in every kind of locker room and stuff. Because I think about, for instance, when I used to be out in LA a lot, the morning show on ESPN radio was Keyshawn, George Sedano, and Elsie Granderson. And like Keyshawn's nickname for me was the captain because of the line from Captain Phillips, "Look at me, I'm the captain now." Right? Like, I know it's a good, like, I know Keyshawn, like, we're friends, so I know he's just making a dumb joke and we're just going along with it. The problem is, like, if I tell that story out of context and then I walked in and then Keyshawn Johnson made a reference to Somali pirates. I'm not even Somali. Like, I could do that, but it's so ridiculous. But it feels like where we are right now is a place where people are seeking these moments to say, see, this person is an awful human being. Look at how they refer to the other person, rather than seeking out actual real-life racism.
But I mean, it's Tim Anderson who's saying, he's lending his own voice. He was the one who was called Jackie, and he's saying this time he experienced it as racist. Now, people will say, hey, if Josh Donaldson has said that to you before and you guys have joked around about it, you can't really do that to Josh now. Yes. But really, Tim can, and we should probably explore that.
Stugotz, there's no disputing the place we should start here is that Tim Anderson has told you it is disrespectful to him. So Stugotz is right. Rewind the conversation, start there. And so we can examine after that whether or not he's entitled to be that kind of hurt, and we can examine what he thinks his relationship is with Josh Donaldson and what he thought the intent was. Because if they were boys, or if they'd been doing this for years, he might have corrected him before now. Sure. If it was something that was offensive. But we're talking about the language of the playground here, Stugotz, and we're talking about 2022 sensibilities. So, yes, of course, start in the place of Tim Anderson has brought voice to this. Now, what do you think? It is possible after that to wonder whether Josh Donaldson is equipped to have this conversation before you shine these lights in his face, and he has to learn whatever it is he has to learn about offending his friend. But I don't know how you legislate intent, when these are the flames around all these conversations.
Well, there's a lot going on. Like, one, are they friends, right? That starts there, right? Is this an inside joke they've been doing for years or not? Or is Tim Anderson like, I don't really know that dude like that, right? That's one. Two is, I have to also be cognizant that I'm speaking as a guy who's 43 years old. I grew up I don't know, I haven't been on a playground in like 10 years or whatever, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe people are like, hey, man, that's not appropriate. Maybe that's how America is right now in playgrounds and in locker rooms, whatever. So I'm kind of speaking from the perspective of somewhere like from a distant past, basically. But then the other part of this, Dan, is like, is he equipped, right? Like, I don't know that anyone's equipped, because when it comes to these issues, the conversation is, and at the highest levels of like TV, where people talk about this all the time, like Sirius TV to sports TV to locker rooms to people on Twitter, whatever. The conversation is this: you said something racist, and that's it. Like, all we're doing is yelling at everybody and not kind of like having a conversation or explaining why. Because to me, there's a big difference between him talking shit, even if he meant it like in a shit talking way. That's right, Jackie. Yeah, take your ass on. Like, there's a difference in that and, for instance, going to a game and the crowd is throwing bananas, as they do in some European countries, at black players. Like, that is next level, right? Or even like fans chanting the N-word. Or if the player had said, hey, get your N-word ass up out of here. All right, that's inappropriate. That comes from a dark and evil place. But some of this other stuff doesn't, even if you can be offended by it.
Let's hear from Tim Anderson in his own words there. This should have been the starting point.
Yeah, he just made a disrespectful comment. Basically was, trying to call me Jackie Robinson. Like, what's up, Jackie? I don't play like that, and I don't really play at all. I wasn't really, bothering nobody today, but he made a comment, and it was disrespectful, and I don't think it was called for. It was unnecessary.
That was when you guys crossed past the shortstop there at the end of the third.
Yeah, but that happened in the first time he got on, and I spared him that time, and then it happened again. It was just, it's just uncalled for. It's not, I got time to, be playing like that.
Stugotz, additional context here because baseball squeezed some of this stuff out of you. Tim Anderson came on with us a while ago at ESPN and got into all sorts of trouble because he said baseball was boring. And the White Sox clamped down on him, yanked him out and no more public stuff. No, I can't go on your show, any shows anymore. And from within that guy's lost some of his joy. That was a fun interview that we did with him. You heard him sort of beaten down by whatever has beaten him down because in that sport, he remains unusual. That dude's a star. He's great. And I don't know how many people know he's great. That's a byproduct of baseball. But he doesn't love the sport. It's boring. So now he's great at a boring sport. And they don't let him talk. And they don't let him be himself. And he thinks he's Jackie Robinson of trying to make the sport more fun. And everywhere he stands, there's a Brian McCann standing in his way.
Making fun of
And
Max,
now he's beaten
right?
down because really, and you too, Josh, God damn it, get the fuck out of here. I'm just fed up. Get away from me. I used to love baseball when I was a kid. Look at what you've done to it. I'm great at it and I hate it. And you.
But if they've had a chuckle about it previously, can Tim Anderson come back years later and now say it's racist? I think that's really the question everyone's asking today, right?
I think you tried to take the easier side earlier, and now you've moved and shuffled off to the other side now. That's what I think's happened here.
Dan, what's the funniest thing you've been called on a basketball court?
Oh, it's too long ago. It's too.
You don't remember?
No, it's just it was a different time, and the language was allowed. That's not LeBatard. Yeah, it's not. It's a source of great shame for me. But did you do this with Zach Harper? Did you actually go venture out there with what some of the slurs were?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't remember what Zach had. It was a funny white player name too, man. It was Bobby Sura or something like that. It's just, I don't know, man. Again, I said, I think I'm speaking. The more I talk out loud, the more I'm saying, oh, I'm the old guy. I'm talking from an old guy's perspective. To answer your question about Tim Anderson and Josh McDonald, or Donaldson. Donaldson. Wow, McDonald's. I'm hungry. Here's the thing. If it's something that's been ongoing and Tim Anderson said, hey, man, not cool, then part of me says Josh should stop doing that for sure. And then part of me says, if I'm talking shit and I want to get under someone's skin, the first thing I'm going to is the thing that said, don't call me that, right? It's remember
but if that
Jim
thing
Rome?
But if that thing is racist, then you shouldn't do that.
Well, okay, so Jim Rome called
Jim Everett, Chris Everett,
right? Chrissy Everett, right? And he said, if you do that one more time,
that clip doesn't age well.
Yeah, and so, but it's a funny clip because Jim Rome gets trucked basically, but also Jim Rome being a bit misogynist, right?
Not a bit,
right? So, it's one of those things where, again, I think it's of a different era. It's a different era where the more I talk about this, the more I understand. I'm just the old guy saying, back in my day, I could call Dan, and he would just laugh and then bust a shot and then come back and say, hey, how you like that? And that's how we do it. And now I think people are just more sensitive towards that kind of language.
And it's okay to realize that in real time. It's okay to not, instead of stubbornly holding on to my way was the best way, to let go of some of that and learn through whatever it is that Tim Anderson and Josh Donaldson can teach you. Why are you pointing? What are you pointing at?
Stugotz in the chat said Bob Sura is a compliment, but he spelled it compliment.
Yeah,
he just left the N and the T off of compliment.
Listen, COVID, I don't know, Deer District, all these things going on.
Bob Cousy.
Bob Sura is a compliment, though. You call me Bob Sura, I'm like, thank you. That guy was athletic. He had hops. I mean, he was good.
Yes, put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Is someone calling you Bobby Sura a compliment? Because I think it is. And you made me think of this with some of the conversation we were having earlier. You see, Bob Cousy has come back at J.J. Redick, right? You made me think of it just because Bob Cousy is something I would refer to a white player who was running around in the key, making magic in the key. I would refer to as Cousy.
This fraud, by the way, he went on NBA Today with.
Can I tell people what he said first?
Well, let me just set it up. He went on NBA Today, which is the radio show on NBA Radio that's co-hosted by Justin Termini and Eddie Johnson. And the background is that Justin Termini is equal parts the guy who, like Mad Dog, who thinks like players in the 60s were better than
You're feuding with him, are you not?
Everyone's feuding with Termini. I don't think Termini has friends. Honestly, but the other thing about Justin is he's from.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does Termini have friends?
Exactly. The other thing is Termini's from Massachusetts, northeast New England area. So like this is like Jesus coming down, like and addressing him right now as he defends his honor, which of course Justin Termini agrees with 100%.
People with less talent will always try to make a name for themselves by criticizing other people and hopefully getting some attention and perhaps increasing their credibility. So when you respond to something like this, you play into their hands. I won't do that, but I will defend the firemen and the plumbers that he referenced. And I'll just give you a few of their names of these firemen that I played with and against during those years. How about Bill Russell, the aforementioned, not too bad a player. Wilt Chamberlain, remember that guy? He wasn't bad. I recall. I guess he must have fought fires as well, but in any event, Wilt Chamberlain, still the best, in my judgment, small forward that ever played the game. A guy named Elgin Baylor. A couple of point guards that weren't too shabby. My colleague who also had an award created, a guy named Oscar Robertson, who was pound for pound the best player perhaps in the game.
I don't want to overreact or be prisoner of the moment, but that is the greatest sound of any kind that has ever been played. The 1940s submarine he was calling from is exactly the landline that I wanted to hear from a crackly past as he defended that Wilt Chamberlain was not a fireman in his spare time in response to J.J. Redick saying that the guys of that time had second jobs as firemen and plumbers. That is, I mean, you can kill Bob Cousy all you want as a fraud. That sound is everything I want it to be. And that sound is every championship that the Celtics hold on to as they tell us what a historic franchise they are. It's that guy shouting from over a war landline. Because, of course, he's at home and he's calling from a crackly landline. That is perfect.
So I just think it was amazing that we all had the same reaction at the same time about that sound without having any kind of conversation about it. Number two, I told the guys back here, he sounds like Lou Gehrig. Like it sounds like it happened on Lou Gehrig Day.
No, it was 1930 sound.
Yes.
It was a real past. This is the past the Celtics hold on to. This is the past. This is the past. You can't even augment that. That had just the right amount of crackle.
Why would you mess with that, Dan? I mean, it's perfect as is.
I couldn't believe the crackle in that phone line. It sounded like it was played from 1958.
So great.
Wilt Chamberlain, remember that guy? He wasn't bad. I recall. I guess he must have fought
even the old man on the other
as
line.
well, but in any event, Wilt Chamberlain, still the best, in my judgment, small forward that ever played the game. A guy named Elgin Baylor, a couple of point guards that weren't too shabby. My colleague who also had an award created, a guy named Oscar Robertson, who was pound for pound the best player perhaps in the game. Jerry West wasn't too shabby. The guys on our team, Sam and Casey Jones, a guy named Hondo Havlicek wasn't too bad. Tom Heinsohn.
I love this so much.
Frank Ramsey, George Mikan, Bob compared it to how I could go on and on. And we must have had the best firemen and plumbers on the planet at the time. So, and I was very proud to play with all of them.
You don't have the full sound. Because after that, he goes.
Oh, that's enough.
No,
I mean, that's enough. Dan, I would ask you this: how many times do you think Bob Ryan has listened to that sound?
Stugotz, can you lay out for a second?
I was going to say, at the end of the sound, he tells us there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
You had the joke. He just barreled through it.
Like, no, he doesn't need anymore. Like, Stugotz, no, I'm doing a bit, Stu.
Yeah, I'm here. You're there. Just like communicate a little bit there.
Oh, your fault. Okay, very good. I mean, there you go. You can eat some of that.
Hey, Stu, I got this. Wave me off. Do something.
Totally your fault. At the end, he goes, "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And even if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas."
Why are you shaking your head, Billy, and in judgment here? Is it just because you hate when Whittingham reads? Or?
No, not at all. Me and Lewis were just had contact about something else and just, the thing.
Okay, very good.
I mean, you guys should have communicated with me better. That's all.
That's right. It's we should have. It is our fault. I can't get over. Can we deconstruct this, please? Because the way he says Oscar Robertson. Where it's got a little Elmer
Wank Whamsy.
It's got a little bit of Elmer Fudd in it, but the sound is perfect because what he's telling you is, do you realize what me and my chums from the 1950s would do to this bum LeBron? It's still now. He's saying from his 80s. This is a bunch of grandpas sitting on the porch saying...
He beat the shit out of J.J. Redick if he saw him in person,
he would.
right? Like, I don't want to...
With just his teeth.
I don't want to incite violence here, but I feel like,
Mandelbaum. That's what would happen, right? Like, come on, let's all put your dukes up.
Stugotz, I love the resume. He gave you not too shabby. So he just kept giving you again sarcastically. He was laughing in your face at the idea that you won't respect the guy that Amin has been saying for a while. You say he's a phony. You say Kuzi shot a bunch and didn't make anything.
First of all, he never shot above like 37% for his career. Second of all, before playing with Bill Russell, I'm glad he named Bill Russell first and foremost. Because do you know what his playoff record was, Stugotz, prior to playing with Bill Russell?
No, what was it?
10-17. 10-7. He'd be the Kyrie Irving of his generation. Right? Oh, you got to winning when? Wow.
Hi, Vinny.
Those guys, Bill Russell, when he speaks with such disdain for Boston.
Landscapers here?
They're getting here. How about J.J. Redick? Put some respect on Bob Cousy's name. What does J.J. Redick, entitled Duke guy, know about making ends meet?
What?
Having to play basketball and then take a second job as a garbage man just to pay the rent, just to make ends meet. That's what they had to do back in the day. How about showing some respect for guys who paved the way? Guys like Hondo, guys like, Dave Cowens, guys like Bob Cousy. J.J. Redick, do me a favor, Amin. Give me the long list of things J.J. Redick has accomplished in his career as compared to Bob Cousy. Go ahead.
Shot over 40%.
No.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
There it is.
Yeah.
Way to go, Amin.
But
Amin wins the argument is what that means.
No. Stugotz is absolutely
Make ends meet. Yeah.
These people had to sacrifice.
I heard you the first time. Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatard Show. I know that was the joke that you wanted in there, so let's do that because Stugotz is even less subtle on the road. Let's go ahead and put on the poll, what does J.J. Redick know about making ends meet? Yes or no? Just yes or no. We got it, Stugotz.
He's right.
We were all here when you made the joke in the middle. The reason you went to Sausage Fingers and did the whole thing is because we were all here, and the ends meet was the killer in that joke.
Other question, is J.J. Redick a compliment?
J.J. Redick.
I think it is, yes.
J.J. Redick doesn't want those rugged carpenter koozie hands. I love that this is what the war is with the Celtics. Whittingham, can we get this off the ground? They were booing. The Boston Celtics were booing their own players. Do you realize how bad they were to Bill Russell, who carried all of them, the entire city? There was shit in his bed. There was human shit in his bed. Boston was so bad to him. There was human shit in his bed.
They took the time and the energy to Amber Heard his bed.
No, wait a minute. In the latest testimony, Amber Heard says it was the dog. It was the dogs.
What?
It was Boo, and that there's a bit of misunderstanding there. It's a terrible misunderstanding to have about you, that people think, and Chris Rock is doing comedy about this, that people think that Amber Heard actually shit in his bed.
Film noir. That's a cinephobe.
No, this was real human shit in Bill Russell's bed. And he carried Kuzi and all those guys, Shaughnessy, Bob Ryan, Simmons, all of them. He's carried all of them in Boston to glory, and they shit in his bed.
I'm confused. Amber Heard's dogs are shitting in Bill Russell's bed?
Or is it Dan Shaughnessy?
Dan Shaughnessy is just a funny name.
It's the best.
It's a great name. It's a great name. He was at game. He also looks like every Boston sports writer ever.
There's 10 Dan Shaughnessy's wandering around in the Celtics press corps.
No, there's a farm of them.
What's the name?
A farm.
What's the name of that bar that's across the street from the Garden? It's called the
Shaughnessy's. Jessica, people are now clamoring for this stuff. They're F1 weekends. You've got some of them really interested, even though we make you really press the gas through this because we only give you a minute anytime a race happens. Are you ready for your F1 minute? A lot of stuff happened. People were upset by car parts failing.
Dan, honestly, I'm dragging a little today. I'm a little jet lagged. This one's going to be a struggle. Fortunately, the second half of the race wasn't very exciting, so I think I'm going to be able to get through it, but I am suffering right now.
I would also think, because you've been off 2 weeks, that you probably are a little bit rusty.
Okay, Dan, off 2 weeks is a stretch. I missed 5 shows, and people were tweeting at me I haven't been in the studio since September. We all need to relax. I heard Lewis slandering me for going on vacation. I heard you slandering me for going on vacation. Yes, on Friday's show, I don't know what day
I said, when do I get a vacation, is what I said. That's not.
You're literally in charge. You could take a vacation whenever you want.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
No, I can't take a vacation whenever I want. There are things that need to be done.
Just leave. Tell everyone else to deal with it. That's what I do.
We'll drive the ship. We got this.
Send an email. I send an email and I say, here's what I do every day. Someone else has to do it while I'm gone. And guess what? Billy did it.
Oh, so I have to give over to Stugotz the running of the company.
Exactly. You tell Stugotz, here's how you do payroll. Everyone gets paid on the 2nd and 4th week of the month.
Okay.
When you came back, though, I mean, the raises that people would have gotten would be incredible.
Wait, raises? I think there's only one raise that happened.
Yeah, singular raise. I think we'd all get subtractions, and then Stugotz would get a raise.
But so you're complaining about people missing you? That you were gone only 5 shows and that people missed you?
I guess in a roundabout way, yes.
Okay.
This is what happened, Dan, last week. And we'll get to this later in the show, I feel like. Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban had a spat.
Yes, do we have any of that sound? We haven't even talked about this. And I missed no one more last week than the fake Jimbo Fisher. Well, it was your wheelhouse while you were gone.
Yeah, we don't need no sound. We got Jess.
This is the problem, Dan. I was on a flight with no Wi-Fi for 8 hours, and as soon as I landed, I turned on my phone, and I had a million tweets. I know this sounds like a brag. It's not. A million tweets oh, we need Jimbo Fisher. We need Jimbo Fisher. And I'm like, what are people talking about? I am so disoriented right now.
No, that was great.
I just got stopped at immigration because I smuggled too much wine in my bag. I just need to go home and go to sleep.
What?
How much soda?
You stopped. You got stopped. You got stopped at immigration because you had too much wine.
I mean, they saw me walking through and they were like, "Oh, we need to do a random check." And I was like, "A random check?" Okay, sure. So I put my bag through the scanner, and they're like, "Ma'am, you have 6 crates of wine in this bag. We cannot let you into the country. You need to declare this. This is over $500,000 worth of port wine. You cannot come into the United States with this amount of
I
wine."
had Jess wearing a trench coat and walking very gingerly and going cling, 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 cling as she walked through immigration, through customs.
But they honestly were fine with the wine. It was when they found all the seeds for the grape plants in my coat, that was when they told me that now I'm on house arrest for the rest of the month.
Anyway, you were saying...
I was saying, Dan, I think I'm going to get through my Formula 1 minute, but it is going to be a struggle because I haven't had any cafecito this morning. I've only had one espresso so far. I was on like a 6 espresso a day regimen in Portugal because that's just what people do there. They drink port and espresso all day, and I'm very slow right now.
But we don't have, before that, though, was there a point that you wanted to make about Jimbo Fisher other than you got the humble brag, not humble bragging million tweets?
Well, my point about Jimbo Fisher is that Nick Saban, he's been trying to cancel me for saying that Mrs. Met has cake. And now Bobby Bowden, there's a man who was a role model, and Bobby Bowden would have agreed with me. There's coaches that disagree with me, and they're trying to cancel me, and then there's the ones that agree with me. And Bobby Bowden would have said, Mrs. Met, she is snatched.
Do we have the sound anywhere of because we didn't get to play any of this because it all happened on Thursday after we left here, but I'd like for people to hear it as soon as the players get some power around here, as soon as the players start getting paid. You got Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher cannibalizing each other, and Steve Spurrier won.
I never pay for a player. Now I would pay for Mrs. Met to give me a lap dance.
And Steve Spurrier wandering into the mix, saying, "Well, did Nick say any lies?"
The old ball coach.
And then Nick Saban apologizing, didn't mean anyone in particular, but Jimbo Fisher was indignant. Stugotz, indignant. What if somebody should slap Nick Saban? He said, he was furious. I don't understand. Jimbo Fisher is making so much money because he got better at this grift than all the other guys. And now you're tarnishing his name by saying the truth too loudly. And Nick Saban's only doing that because he wants parody. He's got the purest of motives. Parody is what Nick Saban wants. And I love that as soon as the players get some power and we have to buy the players and players at Miami.
I've never bought a player, Dan Le Batard. Now, let me tell you something. Nick Saban, he does need the sense slapped into him, all right? Someone needs to slap some sense in him and say, look at this woman. Look at this baseball woman with a baseball for a head. Now that is a good-looking lady.
There's a little Ruthie from Ozark in that one. There is.
Absolutely.
She does. She makes a few appearances there. Let's do the F1 minute with Jessica.
Is this a new song?
Nope, same song.
Oh,
Same song.
Wow. Sounds different.
That's what happens when you take 2 weeks off.
Okay, the short break is over. There's been upgrades. Formula 1 is in Barcelona, and Valtteri Bottas is selling pictures of his ass for charity. It's hot out, but it's a dry heat. Watch for tire degradation. In qualifying, Charles Leclerc takes pole position. The two Spaniards, Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso, finishes 3rd and 17th respectively. Baby Lando is sick. He has tonsillitis. Sad. But it's lights out and away we go. Lap 1, K-Mag and Lewis collide. Both drivers somehow return to the race, but Lewis has a puncture. Carlos Sainz spins off track at turn 4. Bad luck on his home race. The defending champion Max Verstappen also spins off on turn 4. Both drivers return to the race, but lose position. The freaky deaky Dutchman falls to 4th, and a faulty DRS button causes ire. Max, you only need to push the button once. Do not push. The Mercedes and the Red Bull are battling it out. Charles Leclerc is in the lead by a mile, but he loses power, and the Ferrari retires. Maron. While Max Verstappen is screaming about DRS, Lewis Hamilton sneaks back into 6th place. Terry Bottas has a shot at the podium, but the Red Bulls and the Merc are too fast. Checo drives into 1st, but the team tells him to give us a spot to his teammate. That's very unfair, but okay. Lewis Hamilton is back in 4th place, but here comes Carlos Sainz. Verstappen, Perez, and Russell finish on podium. Verstappen celebrates. Perez wants to talk. Mercedes might be back. Get some sleep, baby Lando. Valtteri, I'll take one of those pictures of your butt.
Wow. I think you got it exactly 1 minute there. That is sophisticated slaloming you just did.
I couldn't even hear the music, Dan, honestly.
And you thought it was different music.
Only one espresso.